Well, it is a couple of days after driving Project Ruby. I've let her cool and I've just done a couple of checks. I've drained that bloody water again. It's come out a bit murky, but nothing ridiculous. I just think there's some really nasty rubbish in the system. But a good thing is, the problem that we had with the exhaust manifold, I have ordered a new gasket because I suspect the old gasket may be slightly burnt. When there is a leak from the gaskets, usually they get burnt, can't really reuse them. So £9 a Victor Rhines one fits 1.4 1.6 CVH engines. It's on its way, but I thought, since it was raining and I was meant to be doing a video on my Mark 1, but since it's raining, can't bring it out, can't do a video, so I've come here to see if I can crack those manifold bolts off camera. But I'm going to share this with you because this is the cause of what the problem is. Right, bit of plus gas, okay, application of plus gas. Okay, right, so we applied plus gas to all these bolts. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 1 3 4 5 6 7 8. Sorry, I'm not counting properly. You can see where the heat builds up in the exhaust, because obviously all this has been sprayed in high temperature silver, but it goes a brownie where the heat spots are. That's quite interesting, that is. I actually went in with, well, what was the 1/2 inch with a 13mm and a hammer, gentle tapping. Oh no, I didn't need that. They're blooming loose. Look at them. Now I've just slackened them off, but I didn't need a 1/2 inch. I literally just got my, where is my spanner gone? Oh, it's here. I literally just took my spanner and they're just loose. That's not tight. They're not stiff. I mean, don't get me wrong, plus gas is excellent, but it's not that good. This is a cold engine. It's not hot. I haven't used, the usual technique is you warm the engine up, then you stop it, let it cool down for about a minute or so, then you go in with the penetrating fluid, because the expansion and contraction will cause a gap between the bolt, between the actual threads of the bolt and the stud itself that it sits on. Well, the nut and the stud, I should say. And that's what releases the two apart, especially with exhaust manifold where they can snap. This is a cold engine. I ain't done any of that. I thought it would be worth a try, and if I had a problem, I'd start the car up. I don't need to start the car. They're all loose. And I've got a feeling where we were getting the gunge, I think it's around here, but it's burnt. This was the place where we shot the brake fluid. So, yeah, I'm afraid it's going to come off and be completely replaced. We just need to bring the exhaust manifold this way. I think I might have to move the fan, because when it comes this way it might hit it, so I might move the fan out of the way. But I've just dropped the water again. It's a bit murky down there. Put the hose back on and I've put fresh water back in. I'll just show you what's in the tank. It is literally just furry. Oh, come on. See all that? It's just furry scale deposits from the block, because it's cast iron. It's prone to browning up, unfortunately. The great thing about all aluminium engines is that when you clean them out, they stay clean, but with cast iron they get dirty really quickly. Someone else said to me, why are you buying blue fluid? I have got some blue OAT in the bottles ready to go again, but somebody said, why don't you put red in there? Now, red, theoretically, I could use red if I wanted to, because the water pump has been changed. If you've got the original water pump, you stick with the blue stuff, the IAT. But if you've changed the water pump, that would be far better to be used with the red stuff, apparently. I don't see what the theory is behind that. Is the water pump made of a different material to the originals? I don't think so. But I'm going to slowly release this bit by bit, and just it's always good advice to just take your time with these things. But that is, I'm not, no hammer, nothing, it's just coming off. Obviously I can't complete the job today, but I might just be able to take it off. slacken them all off until we can get all these bolts off. I did also order some new studs and new bolts, thinking that do you know what, I'm going to have to replace the studs and bolts just for argument's sake. Although I have got some nice new ones of these, so I think I'll use that kit and put the new nuts and washers on. Might as well, because these are a bit, well, I did paint them up, but it doesn't look very good when you paint something up and then you paint the bolts. It looks like you couldn't be bothered to take the bolts out and clean them and then paint the object without the bolts, but sometimes you've got to do it in situ. Just got to go very, very carefully and take your time. I'll be back when all these little nuts are off. There's 8 of them. That's it. Right, so this is a tip for anyone taking exhaust manifolds off. You must buy new studs and new bolts. Make sure you've got all that, because if you have a problem with anything snapping or coming out together, then you've already got replacements, so it's no stress. And I want that insurance with a car this age. What's happening here is some of them have come off and some of the studs are coming off with the bolts. What's happened is this bolt here has probably got to the point in the thread where it's catching and then it's taken out the stud with it. That's not a problem, because I'll just take all the studs out with it. I mean, this one, oh, this one's coming out. There we go. See, that's the stud. You've got this, you've got the washer, and that's the bit that goes in the block, and you've got this sort of spacer. That spacer, when we get to this point here where my finger is, it butts up and it stops spinning. But I'll just put that over there. My landlord's going to be very cross with me about this windowsill. And I'm just going to continue whipping all these out, and it'll make it easy because it's already loose. So this is going to need cleaning up again. I'm not going to spray paint this again. I'm just going to clean it up because you won't see this bit. I thought it would just be better than looking at a brown lump. It actually looks quite nice, doesn't it? That's the sort of heat that you get of stainless exhaust headers. If you've ever fitted stainless exhaust headers, they look nice and polished, don't they? But as soon as you heat the car up and get that metal to temperature, this is what the effect is. It's actually quite cool looking at that, isn't it? Anyway, I'm going to whip the rest of them off now. Okay, most of them are out. Fantastic. Now, we have 1, 2, 3 studs. That one's actually coming out partly because you can see the actual spacer. Okay, no problem. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a tool that I recommend every single one of you have to use at some point. It is a stud extractor, and the idea is your 3/8 ratchet goes there, and when you try and loosen it, this goes the opposite way. It tightens, so that will tighten as you are loosening. So when you're turning it left, that will bite onto the thread. Now hopefully, yeah, we just have enough space there. So I'm going to fit my ratchet, if I can find it. Just set this to loosen. Okay. Yeah, it's coming out. That's coming out nicely. Just be very gentle. Very gentle. If you think it's getting stiff, go backwards. Okay? Or use some penetrating fluid. But this is coming out nicely. Ah, it's just gone loose. If it goes ridiculously loose, I'm afraid you may have snapped the thread, and that's a bad sign, because you're going to be in trouble. You have to drill it out from the block, and that's going to be a whirlwind of trouble. So it pays to take your time with this. You know, these bolts are under severe hot and cold contraction. Why these bolts are loose? Well, I've been warned by a few people the engine mounts might not be as good as what they could be, but I didn't think it was a problem. And to be fair, this problem existed before I bought the car, so I'm not sure, but the bolts seem to have loosened over time. I don't know if this has ever been replaced, this gasket. I've got a feeling, based on the mileage of the car, no, it wouldn't have been replaced. So I suspect that all this is original, and it's never been off in 34 years. So like most things I tend to touch, it hasn't been off in X amount of years. But there you go. This is as easy as you get. There we go, lovely. Oh, it's hanging by a couple of studs. And I'm just going to extract the other two and then we can whip the whole thing off. Now, some safety considerations. Obviously, that's the last stud, and this manifold will drop a bit, but we haven't got a mount right behind the engine, which is weird for most cars, because they usually have one there and then two at the back, but we've only got the two at the back. Those rubbers have been done and it should support nicely, but I will have to put one of the studs back in to support this after I've taken this off and done what I had to do, because otherwise it's just going to be everywhere. Now I've got a feeling when I take this stud completely out, it's going to completely drop. I don't know how much it will drop by, but there will be some torsion. Right, there we go, gone. Okay. Right, if I just wiggle that. Yeah, I'm going to have to break that free. Yeah, it's dropped quite a bit actually. It's dropped on the starter motor. Well, that's great. But we managed to get the stud out intact, so I'll just put that over there for the same bin. I'll release that in a second because they get stuck. Okay, so we've got a mating surface, but the gasket is still stuck. That's how not to do it, guys. I think it's dropped. It's physically dropped on the floor. That was not good, Andrew. That is not how to do it. Get a jack, guys. I'm going to get a jack on that in a second. There's evidence of burning at the top there, so this is the area where it was most under. In fact, I'm looking at the wrong side. I'm looking at the back side. Yeah, there shouldn't be any marks there. See that? Burning. That is the area. This is the area here, guys, where I was spraying the brake through, because that, it was sitting like that, but remember it was the front end. That's the front, this is the back side. There's burning there. There's a bit there, and there's a bit there. So they're all equally not very good. Rubbish. Right, okay, so I've managed to put some material on a jack, but it doesn't really need it. It is supported. It's supported by the rear exhaust mount. Yeah, so it's just like sort of resting now on that material. But I might need to drop it down anyway, because this is all going to have to be cleaned up. This exhaust manifold is going to need cleaning on the back side. I would recommend a bit of carb cleaner, just to clean the surfaces. We want this surface really nice and clean. But actually, if I look inside the inlet, oh yeah, well, it's a bit cokey, isn't it? I might need to do a little bit of degreasing, a bit of cleaning. I'm going to do that now off camera. That is going in the bin of shame. Not shame, actually, because I don't think that was at fault, unfortunately. But that is the, unfortunately, that is the consequence of the bolts loosening. I will have, obviously, a new stud kit, but I'll keep as much of this as possible because it's original to the car. You don't know how good the new stuff is. So I'm going to leave this here and cut back when I've actually got a new gasket and this is being cleaned up. I would recommend carb cleaner, bit of Scotch-Brite. You know the way I work, guys. Anyway, catch you in a couple of days. Well, for you, it's now. I'm afraid I've had to come to some interlude in this video. We are at a good stage with the exhaust manifold gasket. That is being done very slowly. I've just gone over and cleaned all the faces after that little last clip, which you're now going to see in a second. But before we go to Andrew actually finishing the job, there is some slight problem that I discovered that evening when I was just rechecking some of my work in one area, and then I discover this. Oh. Words fail me on that one. This is what I said to you before. This is the world of classic cars. You have one problem, you have two problems, you have three problems. Three problems? If I class the oil burning as the third problem, problem comes in threes. There you go, there's my three problems. So therefore, I'm not going to get any more problems. That is how it works, doesn't it? Not with classic cars, it doesn't. This is why the world of classic cars, it gives you one punch, and then when you're down and you think you're getting yourself back up, it gives you another punch and another problem. And that is enough to make anybody feel so rubbish that they just want to lock the car away and forget about it for a few months. And that is what happens to a lot of classic cars. I've got the mindset of, look, I need to just get back in the house, order a new master cylinder. There are a few different types. You have to be very careful with a Mark III. There are 3 or 4 different types of master cylinder. You have to order the one for your car. If you have a 1.4 CVH Mark III Fiesta, you have a completely different master cylinder to a 1.1, 1.3 HCCS, or the 1 litre version as well, and the 1.6 XR2 or the S. So the XR2i or the S. So you have to be very, very careful about that. I have got the correct one, and it's going to go on the car. But quite clearly, this master cylinder has been leaking for some time, and I've just taken it for a drive and revealed the problem straight away. If it hadn't been for my LED torch and a bit of cleaning late on at night, I would not have spotted that problem. In fact, I wouldn't have been able to tell, because that brake pedal feels absolutely fine to me. It felt firm and responsive, but clearly we have a minute leak. Now you could see that cup inside, that yellow cup inside the servo. So this servo doesn't allow brake fluid to go into it. It just comes back out, and that's why it was sliding and streaking down the brake servo. Hence why when I bought the car, it was flaking paint. I just thought it was paint that was just naturally rusted over time, a bit of contamination. Maybe there had been a brake fluid spillage, and I suspected that, but I never suspected the brake master cylinder. But clearly, again, it's not something that can be revealed on the driveway. It has to be revealed in real life driving. So we've revealed the problem, and we're getting on with it. So I will take no great opportunity of showing you guys exactly how it's done. Taking it off was pretty simple. Putting it back on and bleeding it properly is another story. Now, bench bleeding a master cylinder is recommended. I'm going to show you how to do it on the car. You can bleed a master cylinder on the car. It's that simple. Anyway, let's go back to Andrew on the driveway, where he's getting that exhaust manifold straight back on the car. New manifold, new studs. We start from scratch again. Right, on another day, you join me on a rather more humid day. Part 2 of what might be quite a long episode. Let's cut to the chase. So, just to explain what I might have done there, guys, I've sprayed up. Unfortunately, we've had some excess moisture here on the servo, which is ridiculous. The amount of moisture, I tell you, the humidity is ridiculous. Look at the battery. This is the humidity levels that I'm having to deal with today. I've never known a day so humid. Even the blooming porch is, well, actually it's not steamed up as much. It's absolutely ridiculous today. And unfortunately, the limitations of a car cover is you are still going to get some minor water, which I've had to dry off completely. So yeah, it's UK weather for you. This is why our cars rot. But anyway, I thought I'd just explain a bit more what I did with the master cylinder, because this is now turned into a double whammy of a sort of episode. Basically, I've put the bungs. These bungs, by the way, are the bungs that you get with brand new calipers. Keep them, because they go at the end of the pipes. So therefore, you get no leakage. So I merely disconnected all these pipes. This one seems a bit more looser for some reason. I think it's missing one of the clips. I think there's another clip that's supposed to go here, but it's fallen off at some point or broken. So I've managed to keep these bungs on, and we had just a swimming pool of brake fluid in there. You see that seal down there? That is the servo seal. It's just to stop air from leaking out. But essentially, when you put your foot on the brake, this is kind of the sort of movement you might get on the piston. But yeah, it was just leaking everywhere, and I knew it as soon as I saw it. Honest to God, what a joke. But I have got a brand new one, which is going to go on very, very soon. I'm going to have to secure this car cover because I've just whipped it up here just to release a bit of trapped moisture. Don't want moisture being trapped. I'm going to do the same with the roof. Just want to leave it. I've opened a couple of windows. Anyway, let's get on with the exhaust manifold. So we have a new exhaust manifold for a CVH, which is Victor Ryan's, which is, well, the best probably. That is the parts number for it. That is the correct parts number. So yep, that is going to go on straight away. And we have got some new studs, washers, spring washers, and brass nuts. Easy. Now the way with this is the longer piece screws into the block, the short piece is what the nut goes on. That's it. That is it. It's fractionally, I've got to say, the thread on this side is fractionally shorter than the originals, but that's really is to that. I have cleaned all the way around here. I've just made sure, say, just excess moisture. I'm just going to make sure that this is really dry, because honest to God, the moisture, this is moisture. Oh my God, this is bad. This is really bad. Anyway, I've sprayed up the side here just to get rid of all the excess rubbish that had fallen onto it, carbon and coke. I've cleaned it up as best as I can, because this is the bit you actually see beyond the heat shield, so I wanted to make sure that's clean. So I'm just going to go over this just a little bit more. If I just get a piece of tissue, which I have randomly in my pocket, which is definitely bone dry, on a humid day like today, I don't want any trapped moisture when I put this gasket on, and I think that's the main thing. You've got to clean this. I used carb cleaner, guys, and I did do a bit of cleaning inside the cylinders, if you could just see in there. I don't think you can see the valves, it's not clean enough, but I have just got rid of some of the excess coke out of the exhaust ports. I thought it was worthwhile doing while I can. So there we go. I mean, look at that, it's still dirty. So go over it again. We don't want anything excessive sitting there while we put the new gasket on. I just don't like this stuff sitting around. So just keep going around. There we go. That's relatively clean now. That's much cleaner. Right, great. So we can press on. Obviously, that is resting on the floor. Well, I've put a cloth just to protect the paint on the exhaust. But now I can actually start threading some of these studs in, I should say. Now I'm just going to do a tester. I'm just going to randomly do this one. That threads in rather nicely. There we go. Nice. See, I'm thinking now, because these are fractionally different, do they not go in that way? I'm just going to check this out because I didn't actually test this before. But I've got a feeling that these studs, I think they go in this way. I think the long way is this way, because these are slightly different. I was a bit annoyed actually from the supplier. So it might appear, I'm going to just double check, but I think the short side goes in the block and the long side is what the bolts go on. I am going to just double check that, because this should be fractionally bigger. I'm not so happy about that actually, but as long as it goes in and it holds, I don't mind. The Newton meters for all these bolts, by the way, guys, is around 17 Newton meters. That's absolutely nothing. No wonder they blooming shake out. I think this is quite a common problem with CVHs for this happening. Apparently it's not the first time people have actually seen this sort of problem. I have actually had a look on the forums, and it seems to be quite a thing for exhaust bolts to shake loose through vibrations, constant noise and vibration, or no, constant vibration and harshness. That's what this engine is. So I'll just gasket. Lovely. Okay, now the question that everybody asks, which side? The flat side, please. The flat side goes on the cylinder head side, and then the rounded side, i.e. the part that needs to be crushed, because this will be crushed, this side is the rounded side. So flat side, the sharp side, that side please, and just make sure that I get orientated. Yep, this is the way it goes. Okay, so this side is the thermostat side, and this side is the timing belt side. Now what I'm going to do is do it exactly the same way I actually took it off, which is a bit of a tricky one, but basically the short side definitely goes in the block and the long side sticks out. That's as far as I know, guys. You might have to have a little bit of help just to try and wind these back in. The thing is, because I haven't detached the exhaust and I can't be bothered to, I can't pull the exhaust this far away to actually get it around the stud. So we're going to take it off exactly the way we'll put it back on the way we took it off. I have cleaned the exhaust manifold, just forgetting, in exactly the same way I've cleaned it. Some people prefer to do a skim. I understand that, because I've had problems before where I've taken exhaust manifolds off and discovered they're not very good at sealing. But we're not going to find out that in today's episode, trust me. Yeah, ideally you want a peg like that, but unfortunately I can't get the manifold back around that stud. So what we're going to have to do is a bit of faffing around. Now I would suggest we put the bolt through the manifold first, and then we put it into the gasket just to hold it true. Now this could get a bit fiddly. I hope that you probably can't see what I'm doing, but there we go, done. Right, we're roughly in place. The gasket will want to jump out, but if we can just get it in position. So you're basically making a sandwich before you thread it in. There we go. We're going to try and thread that in. Just get the gasket in the right place. There we go. Done. Done. Right. Just make sure that you thread this in enough, because the whole manifold is resting off one stud. There you go. And that's sitting nice. Well, not quite actually. Just move it fractionally. You will need to do a bit of juggling with the gasket in this situation. Ideally, you might want to disconnect the exhaust manifold so you can bring it out and then push it over. Because the idea is you put the studs in with the gasket and then you put the exhaust manifold back over. But I've actually just done it this way. There is always a workaround with these things. Just move that in. You can see where the old gasket sat, but that's the old gasket. This one may be a slightly different measurement. Don't rely on that measurement. So now it's a question of actually putting more of these studs in by hand and just feeling where the gasket is sitting. Okay, so all the studs are now in place. Everything's a bit more loose, but you can still pull the manifold forward a little bit, okay? Now, this gasket will kind of self-center itself as we kind of do this process. Now, there is a way of getting these studs all the way back, because we can see that these studs are not all the way in, okay? They've kind of all got a bit stuck. Now, there's two ways of doing this. You can either get some water pump pliers like them, but you risk damaging the thread, and we don't know how good these are, and I don't really want to be doing that. So what I'm going to do the old-fashioned technique here. These 30mm brass studs, these bolts that come with this kit, you do the old-fashioned technique. So you wind one on, and I think most people know what I'm going to say next. Then you wind the other on, and what you do is you lock these two together against each other. So you have to get a 13mm spanner, okay, lock them together, and then essentially the whole stud should be able to turn. You either do that method or this method. Okay, there you go, easy as you like. See, they're locked. The inner one is locked against the outer one, so if the outer one spins, the inner one spins, and that turns the whole stud. There you go. And just wait till that stud stops, and then you can release these two bolts. You will obviously slightly release the stud when you have to release these two nuts, but there we go. Oh, done. They've stopped. Right, now the nuts are turning, but the stud isn't. That stud is in. See, that stud is in. Look at that one. Look at the difference. In, not in. You want it, you don't want it like the other one. So you do that and repeat it with the whole lot. Also, top tip, this method is also good for releasing studs. So if you don't have a stud extractor tool like I showed you, the process of getting out a stud is the same, but there's two different things. You put the two nuts on, you lock them together, you don't touch the outer one, you get a spanner on the inner one, and that will release. So if you're tightening, you tighten the outside one. If you're removing a stud, you tighten, you're actually loosening, well, effectively turning the inner nut against the outer one to take the stud out. I hope that explains things a little bit more clearly, but these two are done. I'll cut back when they're all done in, which will not take me long at all. Lovely, perfect, and the gasket is sitting nice and true now. Now the way of testing, just to make sure that you have got all the studs back, is just in this case, pull the manifold back and look, you can see the actual spacer on the actual studs quite visibly protruding out of the block, but no thread is exposed, and that's what you want. I've gone round a second time on a couple of them that I wasn't happy with. The two nut technique is brilliant. Now we can just bolt the thing up, and it goes in the sequence of this. So big one, big one, spring one, and nut one. There you go. Oh, how satisfying is that when it rolls onto the thread? There you go. Lovely. You do it in that sequence. Just put them on, give them a nip, and then we torque them. Classic cars, they do give us headaches. But do you know what I find? Particularly with anything in life, not just classic cars, and I'm being philosophical when I say this. The days where you have challenges, that defines you as a person. You can't go through life without problems and challenges. And the people that avoid them, you're just avoiding the inevitable. And that's the truth about life. It's what you do with the problem. That's what defines you as a person. Challenges, problems. I find that I'm at my best, and this is weird. I find I'm at my best when I have a problem like this brake master cylinder over here. Yes, you feel absolutely dreadful, and I've just dropped a washer. You feel absolutely dreadful, but at the same time, that's what invigorates me as a person. It kind of makes me think, right, come on, I can do this. It just takes a couple of knocks, and sometimes it's very easy to go into your house and forget you actually own this sort of car, or forget you're a car enthusiast altogether. That might be also a very good thing. That would probably be good for your bank account, but not necessarily for your mental health. For me, having cars in my life is a good part of my own mental health, and I do champion that. I've mentioned that before, my own challenges as well. And I hope that cars bring a great deal of joy to your life as well, because it does to mine. It makes me get up in the morning and think, what's next today? I mean, I do have a life outside of cars, but not a great deal of a life, but you know, that's just the way it is with cars. They take up so much of your time, you end up being quite a time poor person. And that's me in a nutshell. Right, that's enough philosophy now. Torque wrench. Now I've tightened all them bolts down just roughly with the ratchet, just so they're snug, so this doesn't have to do much, because a torque wrench is not a ratchet. You should not use a torque wrench as a ratchet. I used to do that quite a lot, but now I know better. You'll damage your torque wrench. Look after it, please. 17 Newton meters I do not consider to be good enough. I have whacked this up. This goes down to 20, so I've got no choice with this. But I've put it up to 25 because I don't want any of them bolts coming loose. Now there is a technique. You can use a special Loctite, which is high temperature resistant for exhaust manifolds. But do I really want to be doing that, considering it's a car that will probably might have to have its exhaust manifold off at some point in the future? I'm just thinking, I want it to be tight so it doesn't shake off, and I'll have to just keep rechecking every so often. But I don't want it so hard that the next owner is going to end up snapping a stud or something. I'm thinking like that. Let's get on with it. I'm just nipping these up a bit more because I'm not happy that actually these are fairly loose as they are, and the torque wrench is exactly that. This is for torquing, not using as a ratchet, as I've just said. I'm just tightening them all up just a little bit more so they're actually tight. That's gone loose again. Just work your way around just a little bit at a time. There we go. Okay. Just keep going backwards and forwards. I think that's the important thing. And you know when you're getting tight, the whole car is shaking. As usual. And what will happen is the gasket will start to crush itself a little bit with the compression. And you will feel through, this is a 3/8 ratchet, I'm starting to feel the threads getting a bit tighter. There we go. Now, there we go. Okay, right, now that's ripe for the torque wrench. Now, the important thing with the torque wrench is to get a good position. Now, as I say, I've set it to 25. You might think that's overkill. I don't care. That doesn't seem to want to click. And for some reason, my torque wrench doesn't want to click it. So, you know what? I'm going to actually replace this. I'm going to get my 1/4 inch low range torque wrench because I've got a feeling this won't have it at such low torque. Excuse me. Right, now this is my 1/4 inch. Now this might be a little bit more on the underpowered side in terms of being a 1/4 inch and not a 3/8, but I haven't got one. But I've just set it to about 20 odd Newton meters, which is lower than what I aimed. But, well, yeah, I think we're torqued up there. Oh, okay, there's a bit of movement there, and we go to this one. Oh, bit of movement, and that's done. And this one, good, that's tight. Good. Bit of movement there, and done. So I think I was very much on the cusp of torquing it correctly. See my big, oh, yeah, that's moved a bit. Good, good, good. And the last one. Oh, this is moving a bit, and now it's clicked. Now you see what I mean. The big torque wrench wouldn't have it because I think the mechanism just won't click off at that such low torque, whereas this will. This is far more accurate, and I'm happy now that they're all torqued up to where they should be. If there's minute differences, I don't think it necessarily matters, but I would try and get it as accurate. If you're not happy, if you think you've over tightened them, back them all off, start again, okay, and then redo it. So but I'm happy as this is, so we can now put everything back on. Fantastic. just discovered I need to do a little bit more cleaning around the places. 4 screws, just do a little bit of cleaning. These HT leads have got a bit dirty again. I don't know why. There's some, I think there's been some residue dirt marks everywhere. I like to just have things clean, and I think that's residue of brake fluid down there. I've just had to clean around there because obviously we're going to be doing a lot more work on this car in the next episode, and that's where I leave you. Brake master cylinder, we're going to do that. Anyway, hopefully now she will run at idle, and I tell you what, this could make a huge difference to the car. Just a stupid gasket, some new studs, new bolts, and it may just be a different car. Is it? We'll have to find out in the future. But the next episode, that. See you then, guys.